Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of The Shadow Side with Safrianna. As always, I'm delighted to be here to have just another wonderful guest conversation. Already know this is going to be a great conversation today because I have my guest, Deb Porter, here, founder of Hold. We're going to get into all of that today, but Deb, would you be so kind as to introduce yourself?
First of all, thank you for having me. Hi, I love you. So I'm Deb. Uh, I started a business called Hold because I just felt it was super important for people to be heard. Like family, friends, and coworkers are often too close to a problem, or worse, are the problem, and people just need somebody to listen. My background and training is actually as a United Methodist pastor, which could maybe turn some listeners off, but I hope it doesn't because I'm extremely LGBTQ plus friendly. I actually left the church when a family member came out to me, and I realized I could not stay because if a congregant asked me to marry them, my answer would be, of course, yes, love is love in my mind. And so I left. I walked away from a 96-hour Master of Divinity degree and said goodbye. And at the time I had a young daughter, and so I had a bit of a focus change there. But yeah, anyway, it's been a twisty turny life. I'm 54 and loving life, and excited to be here and have this conversation with you today.
Thank you, Deb. I just love that story of allyship because to me, Deb is the definition of an ally. Like truly the definition of an ally. If you want to know what allyship looks like, look to Deb. And I really thank you for that. I mean that from the bottom of my heart and soul. And that's something we're kind of talking about today because we're talking today about the topic of becoming who you really are. And just in case you don't know me, I'm Safrianna Luna, the Queer Spirit Guide. I'm a trauma therapist turned transformational mentor. I'm a druidic priestess. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I do all of these things. And at my heart is the desire for every person on the planet to know that they are beautiful exactly as they are, and that they're ever evolving, and that it's okay to change and go with the flow and slip and slide along the spectrums. And people like you in the world, Deb, like you are the allies that, even though you might not be on the same slippy slidey spectrums, at least at this point in time, you never know, right? But you are not right now, but you celebrate people who are, you encourage people to be who they are, and you listen to who they are. You listen for them to tell you who they are. And so that's kind of a big thing we're getting into today is the process of becoming who you really are can be challenging in a world that sometimes tries to fit us into boxes. I'm really curious in your experience, Deb, like how often do you hear people say things that reflect that they feel like they have to fit in a box?
A lot. A lot. Our culture does this to people, our society, our families, because most people don't realize there's another way to be, and they're trying to do the thing that they think makes things safe, but they don't understand that it's safe to explore. It's safe to be who you are. It in situations where it may not be safe, and we get into that a little bit in our resource, but I feel like it's so key to just know that you can be loved just like you are. I love that you started with that.
Yes. And as Deb mentioned, our resource, I'm going to actually pop it in the chat for anyone who pops in here live today, but we put together a identity exploration guide called, Becoming Who I Really Am, hence the title of this episode, because Deb, you had already made a resource that was kind of for the general population, because this sort of life transition thing, something that you've observed, causes a lot of stress for people and a lot of identity shifts. And then you realize, like, oh, there might be a deeper need for specifically the LGBTQ population.
Yes, I wrote Who Am I Now? That was the title of the first resource. And I had a moment where I was reading back through the resource and I was like, would this help somebody who's LGBTQ plus IA? And I was like, yeah, no, it would not. I wish it would, but I understood that that's way more layered, way more complex. And I was like, it doesn't address that at all. I need to be really careful that I'm not guiding people to that. The original resource that I wrote, it's more for For the people who are going, who the fuck am I now? With in the middle of a major life change, like a divorce or parenting situation or caregiving suddenly, or like you're tossed into this world. It's really a different identity exploration. But I just feel like to really address the other deeper needs of the community, we needed something else. And so I was so happy when you said yes, you would do this with me, because it's not entirely my experience. Obviously, I've listened to a lot of people for whom it is, but it's not mine. And I just felt like I wanted to make sure that whatever was put out there was true to the real experience of it. And so, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and that's again, the definition of allyship is not allyship is the secondary topic of this episode, clearly. Didn't realize we were going to go there, but that's where we're at. True allyship is knowing when you don't know something because you don't have that lived experience, and it's not even possible to be fully quote unquote educated on it, right? And to go and ask people who live those experiences, whether you are a white person asking or doing research from actual lived experiences of people of color to get to know what their experiences are, not asking them to do emotional labor for you, right? Like, Deb didn't ask me to do emotional labor. She knew I was a resource who tries to make myself a person who can do teaching and offer these things. So those sorts of resources exist out there, whatever population it might be, right? Experts in their own lived experiences who are eager to help other people learn. And that is what, I think we want to really lean into and look at. But back to the identity piece.
Mhm.
I was going through a divorce when you put out the first resource, and I actually really resonated with it. And yes, like there are these different aspects, because when you're going through a life transition, everything feels in flux, and you don't know who you are, right? But that
Yeah.
is so different from a core identity about literally how we interface in the world, who we fall in love with, our gender expression, how we show up, our own interior sense of our gender, of our relational ways of being, etc. So, you know, identity questioning can happen at any stage of life. And I'm wondering if you can validate that as a listener. Like, what are some of the stages of life you've seen people go through these sorts of questions in?
Every single stage, every single stage, literally from very, very young, from children, but I don't help children, just to make that really clear. I can only help those 18 and older. But in my experience, from children all the way through old age, literally old age. It's yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking the oldest client that I worked with who was actively going through like a sexual or gender orientation shift was like 75, 76.
Yeah.
This can happen at any life
That
stage.
yes.
And each life stage, I imagine, comes with its own quality of grief. I can, kids, it's kind of exciting to question who you are as you're emerging into adulthood and be figuring it out. That's normal. But especially if you're in your 30s, you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and you're going through a life change, that feels like, shouldn't I have already figured it out?
There's a whole other layer of grief of what I know now that I didn't live, and I missed all that then, and that layer of pain, I think, is way more challenging to unravel and unpack and come to peace with.
Yeah. And that coming to peace with, like, what does that actually mean to come to peace when you're hearing someone, when you're holding space? Like, how do you know when someone's come to peace with something?
There's less resistance. There's acceptance. There's not this fighting against myself, but okay, I this is where I am now, and what do I want to do next? Because this is where I am now.
Mm.
It's very different. You can tell.
Yeah, that fighting against oneself, that's a trap everybody can fall into, of course. But with the LGBTQ population, there's so much more. I mean, God, every single person I know that has come out as queer has had a conversation with a loved one that has asked, are you sure? Can you change your mind? Can you roll it back? Especially if they're bisexual, especially if they are gender fluid, especially if they happen to fall in a spectrum where they could sort of mask and just stay on one side of the spectrum in a way that society would quote unquote be okay with. Like that is just a tremendous weight to carry. And it's not something that I think a majority of non LGBTQ people experience. That like deep, you sure you want to just stay over here in this box? Maybe with career, maybe with kids.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. It is, and that is different. Absolutely, that's different. Yeah. I do think that um, it, boundaries are key in that scenario, right? Like, are you sure? Like, I love that you have the question, and the answer is no, and and then there's no reason to have any other question, any conversation. Like that's it. So regardless of where the question's coming from, you as a person get to have your life, your experience, your feelings, your sexuality, all of that's yours to have. And nobody else gets to say anything about it because you create your own reality. It's yours.
Yeah, and I love hearing you say that as an ally because I think for me as a queer person and many people that I've talked to, like we feel like we owe an explanation to make other people comfortable.
Nope. You don't. I get that you feel that way. Yes. Yes, and yes, and nope.
So that's just very affirming to like hear you say like, no, this is your own. You get to hold this. And that gets me into the cost of masking or code switching, which is something we talk about in our resource too. Like there is this exhaustion that comes with if you believe you have to keep defending yourself and you believe you have to explain yourself and you believe you have to hide it, that many other people don't experience like that level. Obviously, people of color code switch all the time. They can't mask. They can mask neurodivergence or queer, but they can't mask being a person of color. But like you can kind of code switch and mask with pretty much anything else, right? Anything that you can hide a part of your identity. And that exhaustion takes such a massive toll. And I imagine that that's part of what you end up holding space for people about is like feeling like they just can't show up as who they are.
Yeah. It's a big piece of the work to sit with that and to, because ultimately whatever anyone thinks is theirs to have and work through, right? There's no automatic uh get out of jail free card. Okay, I have this now. I'm going to stop thinking like that. Nope. There's got to be the internal work that happens where there's the relief in mentally inside that I'm okay that this person's unhappy with whatever, and I'm still okay within me, and it's fine.
Mm. That piece about like being okay in me also gives permission to let other people have their experience of processing what they need to experience about, what we might be revealing when we're emerging into a new identity, a new label, a new anything.
Yeah.
Um, that's been a big piece of work for me recently, honestly, has been really going, oh, I don't have to process this on your behalf.
Nope.
This is yours to hand back to you. Obviously, I don't do that as a therapist. I let them process their stuff. But in so many personal relationships, when we rub up against someone else's discomfort, we want to soothe that discomfort so we can keep the connection.
Yes.
And that is absolutely a queer experience that can happen. I mean, again, it happens in so many things, so many different family systems. But with this, like, really tender part of the identity, the sexual orientation and our gender identity, at a time in which the world is really like on attack for many of those things too.
Yeah.
So as a person who listens and holds space, what are the signs people should be looking for to know that they're actually being heard?
So, I feel like most people there's an intuitive knowing. Like you can tell. Like you feel validated, you feel understood, you feel respected, you feel cared for, seen. Uh, those are true aspects of feeling heard, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when we're not feeling heard, because I know you offer a lot of education to, or I know you did in the past at least. I don't know if you're still doing it, but you have offered education on both how to listen, well, to listen and to share. And it's why is it so hard for people? Why is it so hard to listen? And why, and I mean, that's why it becomes hard to share, I imagine, is because people don't know how to listen.
I yes, it's that. But if you stop and think, I was in our very first podcast conversation where I asked you, had you been taught how to listen before you got into your higher education program? Were you ever taught in school? Did your family sit you down and say they told you to listen, but did anybody ever teach you how? And I remember you going, having this moment, your eyes got big, and you went, "Nope, no, nobody did." And the reality is, for the majority of us, nobody did. Nobody taught us how to listen. And so, unless you happen to have a really great example in your family, or someone in your world that showed you some things and you just picked it up, most of us weren't taught how. But there are key, um, repeatable things that you can do to help people know that you are listening, and there's a system that you can apply. Not that it's clinical or cold, but repeatable and loving, so that they know, yeah, okay, this person's on board with me and they're tracking. And does it work every single time? Hell no. No, no, it's not. It's not gonna work every single time. But I think that's also the beauty of our humanity, right? Because when we don't get it right, we have the opportunity to then go, well, shit, that didn't go like I wanted it to go. Can we try again? Let's I you know, or even before that, I really need to take a break so that I can get myself back into center, so I can really hear you, because I'm aware right now I'm not, because I'm all jacked up. Like, let me slow down and get myself back to a place where I can hear you. I think a lot of people don't know how to take that pause,
Mm.
and then how to re-enter into it to make that communication happen. I feel like that's so, so, so important.
Yes, I agree, especially with that pause that people, we either want to be enmeshed and like keep the conversation going, or we want to avoid it completely, and there's no room for like the in between sometimes, this sort of like black and white mentality. And when we do get into really vulnerable conversations and emotions get high charged, sometimes we need to step back before we do more damage to one another, essentially, so that we can come back in and actually connect and have the conversation. And I know, on this sort of theme of queer identity and kind of coming out and becoming who we really are, a lot of unfortunately, a lot of us, when we do come out of the closet and we tell family members, we are immediately met with big emotions. And this is where we need more empathy on both sides. And this is hard. This is very hard, because of course it's going to sting if you're a queer person and you start to come out and your family members are like, "Oh God, no, like, are you going to be safe?" Often that's what comes out, is like, that's not safe to do. Like, look around. Are you sure? Like, can you avoid this? Is there any way you can break free from this? That doesn't feel good to hear. Yet, if we could hear the love that's underneath that, there's more room for a further conversation down the line. Like you said, where we say, "Yeah, no, I've already made up my mind. No, I'm not going to go back in the closet," and all of that. But also, the person who's listening, the person who's receiving this identity change, like, how can they be more compassionate and hear better?
So I think it's important to understand that you, in all likelihood, do care about and love this person that's telling you this deep thing that is important to them. And in my experience, um, the denial tends to come from a place of wanting to protect, wanting to, um, wanting to make sure that they don't face um, societal harm. And we've come so far. There's still more work to do. Don't say there's not, but just, in the difference of from my early years. Again, I mentioned I'm 54, so I've seen the progression
Mhm.
of a lot of it. Um, I think that if, especially from a parent's point of view, thinking about, well, what if they never have kids? What if I never have the opportunity to have grandkids? You have to be willing to take your own feelings aside and to say, okay, there may be some loss here. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't. Is that really the end of the world for me? Y Yes, it's a loss that I had hoped for. It could still happen, and maybe not the way I thought, but it could still happen. There may still come a child, and if I need to love a child, what other child can I find in the world to love right now? Because
Mm.
there are many. Let's face it, there are many children to love. We don't need to have, and I get it. I do. I understand, like, this specific from your person. I know. I know. Like, I really do know. So, um, but sitting with it and working your way through that to get to a place of, no matter what, I love this person, who they are, as they are, and that's okay.
Yes, and I love that you brought up the children example, as a good, like, example of the family, right? Sometimes when people come out, the family has all kinds of responses, and it often is grieving what the version of the person they thought was their family member.
Yeah.
Does that feel good as a queer person? Know that we have to be grieved for who we once were. Like, ugh, right? When you hear it, it's like, ooh, that's tough. But this is also other people. And that is someone else then having to kind of go, okay, well, how does this impact? Like, does this impact me? If I wanted those grandkids and, my daughter just came out as a lesbian and doesn't have an easy path to suddenly have a baby, right? Like, that is absolutely a thing that parents can go through, and I have, like, literally seen that happen before.
Mhm.
But when we know it is not safe, so this is where I try to really be the bridge, because again, I have lived queer experience. I am queer. I work predominantly with LGBTQ people. So these are the sort of common pitfalls and
Yeah.
issues that we snag up against. But if we are so rigid that someone else needs to get who we are right away and, like, be exactly on board and figure it out and have all of the pronouns or names or whatever updated, we're going to cause ourselves pain. Because even as a like, even as a queer person, when my friends switch their pronouns, sometimes it takes me a little bit to update.
Mhm.
So if we expect perfection from anyone, that's going to be a big painful sticking point. But that does not mean that we give it up or we run away from it. We stand in it and we keep, this is who I am. This is who I am. This is who I am. That's part of the becoming process, is being firm in it.
And as a parent, if when you understand, okay, I'm going through this change now, and um, things are changing, uh, for what I thought to who this person is finding their identity now, and I want to love them as in their identity now. So your friends and other people around you use their old name,
Mhm.
and then it's a matter of gently correcting in the moment, and that's part of the work then for you to do and to be okay with, and not as judgment to those around you, because they're gonna they'll eventually learn. We all eventually learn, right? And the pronouns take long. I think, I don't know why, but the pronouns do take longer. I think the name is sometimes easier to get than the pronoun for whatever reason. I don't
For
understand
whatever
the
reason.
linguistically. There's probably a reason for that, neurologically. I don't know what that is, but yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, just this giving each other grace and knowing when grace is not being given mutual. You can feel when your family is trying to be like, "No, we don't accept you. We're kicking you out. We're cutting you off from contact. You're not welcome in this family anymore." Those are very different messages, and that is like a sign that you're not going to be safe as who you are. There was probably a lot of that underlying before when you look back, and that is, the very unfortunate process of having to liberate ourselves from family systems that can't accept us as who we are. And that sucks.
It sucks. That truly sucks, and that is hard. Yes, 100%. And in my mind, better to go find your found family and to be with those who really do love you than to try to fit somewhere that the acceptance isn't. Yes, that's hard. I understand that's hard, but it doesn't mean that there aren't people out in the world who will love and accept you and that you will find an abundance of them. And yes, it feels like deep pain and heartbreak and all of those things. And yeah, you're going to sob for a while and that's okay. Do the work. Do that and then go find your people.
Yes.
Because they are there for you and you will find love. Love is always there for all of us. We simply have to reach out and discover them.
Yeah, and it really is true the more we anchor into self-love, that the more that we orient to like, oh, that is reflecting back love to me. That feels good because it feels similar to the quality I give myself. And that is why I think that doing the work for ourselves is the most important thing that we can do. You know, falling regardless of your identity, falling deeply in love with yourself and being able to have that self-trust as a foundation that you can truly assess like, okay, this family member, like I'll when I came out as poly, I remember polyamorous. I remember an uncle being like, "Okay, so you're still with this person." Yes. And you're with this person over here. Yeah. And person A and person B know about each other. Yeah. And then he was like, okay. Like he asked a few questions and then he was like, I'm a little weirded out. I've never heard this before. Does this mean this? Is this with that? And everybody's on board. Okay, cool. Like sometimes it takes just like a casual conversation to move through it. And sometimes like I have a friend right now who recently came out as trans feminine and is finally telling her family and had an elder, you know, like a grandparent be like, are you sure? Like, I see what's happening in the world politically right now, and I'm just really scared for you. And this
Yeah.
friend was able to just receive, like, oh, this is not a rejection of me. It's fear that I'll be hurt if I'm me.
Yes.
And she was able to just be like, yep, this is really who I am, and this is what I'm sticking with. And the grandparent was like, okay, well, I love you, and I'm gonna do research. I'm gonna figure out how to
Right.
learn more about this experience. And that's what we're looking for in family, whether it be our blood family, adoptive family, chosen family, doesn't matter. We want someone who sees us and goes, wow, this is really important to you. Let me learn more about it. We could flip the script on this. It doesn't even have to be queer, right? It could be someone going, I'm starting a new career and like it's a brand new venture and you know nothing about it. And so you care and you want to learn more. Like it's the same. Like we should care to get to know one another.
I think this is uh, absolutely, and this is also identity that we're talking about, like the essence, the deep part of who we are, which is why I think it feels the most important because it's like our soul self. This is our soul self, and having somebody accept and love our soul self is, of course, super important. Like a career, if there's somebody doesn't understand our job, okay, yeah, well, okay, they're not going to get it. So, maybe they don't. But when it's our soul self, I understand that that comes with more,
Mm,
and it's okay that it comes with more. And I just hope people listening will be like, yes, oh, it's fear. It's fear that I had, and yeah, I can own my fear. But you know what? We can choose to live in fear, or we can choose to live in hope.
yeah.
And which one are you going to do?
Mm. I certainly would like more hope and love in the world.
Yes.
I'm here for that party, and you know that is again like when I look at so much of why is there this stigma? Why is there this fear? I mean, you know me, I'm a little spicy, and we just need to look at the conservative conventions and the grinder things that happen to know that there's a lot of closeted people in the world who are holding very tightly to I'm supposed to fit in this box. And if I don't fit in this box, I'm unworthy, I'm bad, I'm wrong, I'm going to hell. Like, insert any number of shame narratives here. So, when someone actually chooses to come out, the amount of bravery that that takes in this day and age is so tremendous. Like, people coming out of the queer closet are amongst the bravest of us right now with the way society is. And so if someone really is coming out, like, can we just meet them? Because that was already a tremendous amount just to get to that point.
I'm I'm stuck in my brain because there's this thing that's popped up for me, and I'm like, "Do I say this out loud?" And I'm gonna. So, um, I heard my dad one time say that he thought all of the people, who were gay should just be rounded up and shot.
Mm.
And at the time, I actually was kind of questioning. I was like, "Mm." And then he said that, and I was like and I remember saying to him, "Do you really believe that? Do you do you really believe that?" And he went back with his newspaper. He didn't answer me because he didn't particularly love it when I challenged him like that.
Yeah.
Because yeah, um, but I think what we have to realize is going from, that kind of mentality where, that may have been the first thing out of the mouth, but when really challenged about it, was that really, because he didn't expect me to say, I know he didn't expect me to say, "Is that really what you think? Is that really what you believe? Like, is that something we should really do?" Like, no, it's not. Let's be really clear. Like, no, it's not.
Right.
And I think he knew as I challenged that no, actually, that's not really what he thought or believed. And I also think he didn't know what else to do with it.
Right. Well, and this is like that group think and just the societal norms and narratives are unquestionably anti-LGBTQ. Like the power systems, at least here in the United States right now, are very anti-LGBTQ, and we can go back to eugenics. And we know that there have been forced sterilizations of queer people before. We know
Yes.
that there have been people put in concentration camps for being queer. Like, there is very lived, embodied fear that is not something we can just sweep under the rug. And that's why, unfortunately, because there's this sort of, I'm going to call it like ambient trauma, right? Even if you don't directly experience it, which if you're an LGBTQ person, you probably do directly experience it at some point. But even if you didn't, there's this ambient narrative. I mean,
Yeah.
being gay is like the brunt of jokes still. I can barely go back and watch a movie from the late 90s, early 2000s without being like, oh my gosh, this did not age well. And this is what I was a queer teen absorbing, was
Mhm.
being a joke, being like the thing that you slapstick humor about. Like, so coming out, sharing this vulnerable information to say this is who I really am, comes with all of that history attached to it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing about your dad saying that, because that is like, those are those insidious, like under the surface things that they just get said and then they get normalized and then they're not questioned. Nobody questions them, which is why he didn't expect you to go, do you really mean that?
Yeah.
But you questioning that, even if the conversation didn't continue, planted a seed for him of, do I really think that?
Yeah.
It's a good
Yeah.
question to ask, right?
I mean, the conversation never went any further than that, and, the family member that came out to me never came out to him. Um, that was never discussed, and I always felt extremely sad that that family member didn't feel comfortable bringing their partner to family gatherings. That felt so very uncomfortable and wrong to me that they couldn't just be who they were. Um, and there was discomfort around that, and trying to figure out, even as an ally, how do I challenge that in this family system? Like, that's a really hard thing to do. Um, I uh, I think if it had been really important, to my family member to bring their partner, I would have done. Um, and there was joy for me in my father's obituary that their partner was mentioned. There was joy for me in that. There was joy because it was just really my dad that had trouble, and
Now that
finally
he's
it was like,
gone.
now he's gone. Well, and the fact is, I think, you know, yeah. Anyway,
This is the real like shadow stuff of life though. These are like the real, this is what it's really like to be
that
alive and to be human. It's so complicated.
And to well, yeah, and to try and figure it out.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up too, just because of this theme, when we're becoming who we really are, or we're supporting someone to become who they really are. That's a question we can ask. If somebody comes out to us, is like, do you want my support in the family, in the friend group, wherever? Like, do you want me to back you up when someone mispronouns you? Do you want me to correct people on your name? Do you want to be responsible for that? Like, what support do you want? Do you need me to be a more vocal ally? I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to be the person who shows up and puts the people in the family in their place if they get out of line, or to be the alternative host for the family gatherings. Or, how do we again make this about connection and coming back into relationship, into family, whether that is the chosen or the OG, the original family, right? Like,
Yeah.
how do we just bring back and bridge the connection? So, the last topic I want to make sure that we cover today is sort of permission.
Mm.
Like, permission to keep evolving, permission to be yourself, permission to have the hard, tough conversations, to sit in the discomfort, whichever side you're on, whether you're the person emerging into an identity or you're holding space for someone who is. Just what permission do we want to give people?
Oh, just it's um permission to be who you are is the most important. Permission to know that you are loved and you are perfect just the way you are. Like, I know that's very Mr. Rogers-esque from my generation,
I
but
love Mr. Rogers.
who doesn't? I mean, if you don't love Mr. Rogers, I feel like there might be you
Red
might have
flag.
needed to begin like this conversation from the beginning. We'll start over. Sorry. Okay, we got
Oh,
pure Deb going on here today.
I love it. That's what this is about. Just being ourselves.
This is it. This is it. This is me. Yeah. So, but permission. We were talking about permission because that's really key. Mr. Rogers, what he did was he listened and he cared about people and he accepted them exactly as they were. Like, I don't know if you ever realized, but there was one scene that Mr. Rogers did where there had been um segregation issues about the swimming pool, and he had a person of color, and they both put their feet in a little wading pool together,
Mhm.
and that was so symbolic at the time. This was like radical. This was Mr. Rogers being radical. And it was much later, I didn't understand or know that Mr. Rogers actually had a person on set who was LGBTQ. And I didn't know that Mr. Rogers actually did struggle with that too.
Mm.
And they actually married that character in the show, and it was really uncomfortable, like for that person. But in real, this is the important part. This is what people need to hear. In real life, Mr. Rogers always accepted and loved the person as they were. It was just the show that they wrote the character in for. So, anyway, for what that's worth.
No, I mean,
Permission to be where you are.
permission to be who you are, permission to look at things in a different historical context too.
Mm,
But yes, like, there is no need to fix yourself. There is no need to, pressure yourself to emerge in a certain way. Like, that's the other side of things. Like, don't put pressure on yourself. Give yourself permission to be pressure free.
yeah.
Let this stuff go as much as you can so that you can step into who you came here to be.
Yeah.
And that last piece of permission is, again, that permission to keep evolving, because you are going to change and grow again and again, too.
Are you familiar with the comedian Lucy Darling?
Yeah. Oh my, I'm obsessed with Lucy Darling right now.
Okay,
So
okay,
yes.
so am I at the moment. Lucy is providing me a lot of comedic relief, but I'm noticing over and over again, what is it that she's doing in her comedy? Hello, my darling, an acknowledgement. I see you. Who and what is your name? Who are you? And what is it that you do? right? Like there's a seeing of the person from the get-go of, and this is why that's why the community surrounds her as they do, because she's doing that. And
Mhm.
so and she's allowing life to be funny. She's she's allowing lots of things to be funny. If you're not familiar, go look her up. She's got tons of YouTube videos and TikToks and whatever. But yes, I think that's Lucy is also about giving people permission to be who they are. And I think the more and more and more and more and more of us who go about our day doing that, the better and better we become as a society. Yeah.
I'm gonna look at all of the Lucy Darling videos even more just with joy now. Just seeing like, yeah, you're so right. She's just connecting in the moment, and then she throws out these zingers because she's really present
Yes.
to what's and who's in front of her, and the energy and the motion and the space. It's really beautiful. And that's the gift we get to give other people.
Yeah. She does it with comedy. I just do it with a little bit more seriousness. We do the same thing. Like I was imagining if I was ever in her front row, what do you do? Oh, I'm a professional listener. So like you, only without the funny stuff.
I would love to see a YouTube short of you in the audience at a Lucy Darling show. Let's
So
manifest this.
it's so hard because she's actually coming to my city. Not too far from now, but tickets are a little bit more than I can afford. So
Oh,
so that's a little sad, but
we need to manifest getting Deb to Lucy Darling. Oh my goodness. Well, Deb, this has been a joy as always to just have a real conversation, to be real humans together.
Yeah.
And again, I thank you so much for your allyship for just and that's it shouldn't be hard to be an ally. It's really just about accepting people as who they are, isn't it? Like that, would you agree that's the core of it, is to just accept people as who they are?
It is, but I think in order to be able to do that, you have to be able to accept yourself and love yourself
Mm,
as who you are. And so many of us don't know how to do that. So
mm,
many of us weren't ever taught how to do that. We were taught from the get go, you need to be somebody different. Like from the outset, we're told um, different things about don't cry, like be different from who you are, like don't have feelings, don't do this, don't do that. And so I think it's really hard to if you didn't start from a place of love and acceptance yourself, it's really hard to know how to give love and acceptance. Until you do that for yourself, you don't know how to give it. And I have a lot of compassion for people who are there
mm,
because I understand, like, okay, I'm going to go back for a moment to my dad because we've already talked about him. So I know that his beginning was extremely harsh, very violent, alcoholic father, horrific abuse. He had 9 siblings, so there wasn't a whole lot to go around. Yeah. So when you start from that, you you got to soften, you got to understand, you got to try to see if you've got somebody in your life who's difficult and who's struggling to love you, try and see them from where they're starting from. Where is it that they're starting from? Are they starting from a place where they don't have a clue how to even be kind to themselves? Because if they don't, they're not going to be able to get to you yet.
mm.
It's going to take them a little bit of time. And yeah, that's what I got.
That is such an important message, right? And that's, I think we touched on that. The most important thing you can do is do your own self-love work, whichever side of the table you are on, no matter what side of the table you're on. We're all at the same table. We're all one people, one planet trying to figure this stuff out. So how do we be more compassionate in that? And that starts within ourselves. So thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. Very
You're welcome.
important.
Yeah.
So, as we said, we have a beautiful resource that's out there. It is completely free. You do not have to have an email to sign up for it. And this was just such a lovely invitation from Deb to help with a resource. It's available online now. It's in the links here. We go over what kinds of things you might be experiencing as you're emerging into a new identity. This particular resource, Becoming Who I Really Am, is for LGBTQIA people in
Yes.
particular. But Deb, you have all kinds of other resources available on your website, hearingoutLifeDrama.com. Where else can people connect with you?
Oh, yeah. If I'm on social media, I offer I do shorts every day. So if you're like looking for little tidbits of upliftment and love in the meantime, find me on social. Pretty much find your favorite platform. I'll be there. Yeah. And if you like need to like talk to me, the website's the best place. Start from there.
Yes. And just as a reminder, Deb does listening sessions. They're not therapy sessions. They're not even coaching sessions. They're literally space holding for you. And you are just such a fantastic listener. Like, you really feel held when you are being listened to by Deb. You feel seen, you feel supported, and you get to call the shots on, where the conversation is going, and if it's a conversation or if you just need to be listened to, because goodness knows not enough of us really are deeply heard. So thank you for that work in the world. I think that you are just so fantastic, and I cannot recommend Deb enough. If you want somebody to hold space for you, go check out hearingoutLifeDrama.com.
You're amazing. Thank you. I feel like I'm blushing over here now. I'm all red. Like,
Well, you know me. I just love to shower people with love and words of
I feel loved.
affirmation. So I am enveloping you,
Thank you.
Deb, in the biggest hugs. And to anyone listening to this, we love you. We see you. We believe in you. We're cheering you
Yes.
on. We know that this can
Yes.
be a hard go sometimes,
Yes.
but love exists for you and space exists for you. So keep going.
Yes.
Come see us if you need us. You know where to find us.
Yeah. And she's amazing too. Just because she told me that, told you the same thing goes for her. go to our website. For real.
Well, thank you, Deb. We're going to call it there for now, but I just love every single conversation I have with Deb, and maybe you'll be back in the future. Who knows? Okay, until next time, our friends, we love you. Bye for now.